Okay, hi. So I am going to do, I think I'm going to do two videos because there's a lot of questions. So I'll probably divide this into two videos. So I want you to take the one handout where it says decimal word problems and it has 13 questions. And you notice that at the bottom it has the answers to 13 questions. Okay, so I'm going to read it and then we're going to see what operations is necessary. These are all questions that involve decimal operations, okay? So, number one, Billy runs daily as part of an exercise plan. On Sunday, Billy, apparently a girl, she ran 8.3 miles on Sunday. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start writing these down. And let me just pick a color here. Here we go, pen. And let's just start. So, 8.3 miles. And wait, 8.3. There we go. And then Monday 5.1, and then Tuesday 5.75. Okay, I have a feeling it's going to be an addition problem. And then Wednesday 5.6. Okay, and then Thursday, geez, she ran a lot, 4.25. And then 6 miles on Saturday. Now, notice that I went ahead and started lining them up, decimal and decimal. Okay, and the last number is a whole number. It doesn't have a decimal, but I will add a decimal, which goes all the way to the end. And notice that I also want to do this to make my life easier. I want to put zeros here as placeholders so that every number has the same number of decimal places. It makes it much easier, okay, when I start adding. So the first question is an addition problem. Okay, so how many miles did she run this week? It involves addition, so let's add. You get a 10 over here. And carry the 1. 3, 4, 5, 12, 20. Carry the 2. 12, 20, 35. So answer to the first one is 35. Okay, it's a simple problem. Okay, I guess what we want to get out of this problem is that you knew that it was an addition problem and that you have to line decimals so that you're adding same place values every time. Okay, so here you're adding the hundreds, here you're adding all the tens together, and here you're adding all the ones together. Okay, for an answer 35. 2. Tom had 84.50 and then he spent 12.25 for a CD, 17.85 for a gift, and 15.45 for gasoline. So here's what he started with, 84.50. And things that he spent on. He spent 12.25 on the CD. He spent 17.85, and then he spent 15.45. So these are his expenses. Let's figure out how much he spent. 15 carried the 1, that's another 15. Carried another one, that's another 15. And according to my calculations, he ended up spending $45.55. And you can write expenses here. Okay, and then obviously he started with 84. Let's see how much he has left over once we calculate everything. So we have to borrow. We go all the way to the left. That becomes a 7. This is 14, which becomes a 13. This is a 15, which becomes a 14. And finally, the last one becomes a 10. So again, all my decimal and the decimal, all my place values are lined up correctly. And you get a 5, you get a 9 over here, you get an 8, and you get a 3. So how much money does he have left over? $38.95. Okay. 3. The employees in the firm earn $8.50 an hour for the first 40 hours and 1.5 times the hourly rate for any hours worked for her 40. How much does an employee who works 52 hours in 1 week earn? All right, so 2 parts here. He works 52 hours, okay, but he's paid differently. For the first 40 hours, okay, it's times 850 because that's what you make for working 40 hours. Any hour above that, I guess we can call it overtime. So that would make it 12 hours of overtime that he did, extra hours that he spent at work. For this extra hours, he got 1.5 times the hourly rate for any hours worked over 40. So what we're going to do so 12 hours, it's times 850. Okay, so, but there's still an extra step there. So let's calculate this. So for the first 40 hours, 40 times 8.5, he gets $340. Okay, now the next 12 hours, he gets now 1.5 what he makes. So he makes 12 times 8.5, which is 102, and half of that, which is 51. Okay, so it's 153 plus 340 gets 493. It's 1.5, meaning if this was 12 regular hours, he would get $102. But because it's 12 hours above the 40 that he works, the extra hours, he gets an additional half of whatever he earned. So he earned $102 plus half of that would be 51, and giving him a total of 153 for the 12 hours that he worked. Okay. 4. The monthly rental for an apartment is $412.50. How much would the rent be for 1 year? So every month he pays $412.50. We want to find out how much he would end up paying for 1 year. So a year has 12 months. Okay, so if we were to multiply, and I'll actually multiply this. This has 2 decimal places. This has 0. So it gives me a total of 2 decimal places, and that tells you that your answer has to have 2 decimal places. So let's multiply this out. 2 and 0 is 0, 10, 5, 2 and 8. Add a 0 before you start the next line, and 1 times 0 is 0, 5, 2, 1, 4. And let's see how much he pays a year. 0, 0, 10, carry the 1, 5, 9, 4, 9, 5. Well, our answer has to have 2 decimal places, so I'm going to put my decimal right here, which makes our number 4,950. Next problem, 5. If you have $325.58 in your checking, then you write a check for $166.73. What's your new balance? Well, so you start with $325 in your bank account, and then you use 166.73. Be careful with your decimals, okay? Make sure they're lined up. There's a subtraction problem. 5. Well, we need to borrow, so that's okay. So let's borrow all the way from the end because that's where we need it. That becomes a 12. This 12 becomes 11. This becomes a 15, which becomes a 14. And finally, this becomes a 15. 15 minus 7 is 8. Bring the decimal down. 14 minus 6 is 8 again. 11 minus 6 is 5. 2 minus 1 is 1, which makes his bank account a little bit less, having $158.85. Okay, that was easy enough. 6. John and Rosie own a home assessed at $98,000. So their home value is $98,000. If for every $1,000 of assessed value, they must pay $65.50 in taxes, how much is their tax? So they have to pay $65.50 for every $1,000. So here's 98. One way of thinking about this. Here's 98,000. Okay, $98,000. And it says that every 1,000 you pay $65.50. Okay. Well, so if their house was worth $1,000, they would pay $65.50 in taxes. If their house was worth $2,000, then they would pay double this amount. If their house was worth $3,000, they would pay triple this amount of $65.50. Well, so how many thousands are in 98,000? Well, there are 98 thousands in 98. So, easiest way, multiply 98 times 65.50. Okay? I usually don't like to multiply with the number with more digits at the bottom. Okay? But, let's do it this way. 98 has 0 decimal places. 65.50 has 2, giving us a total of 2. And that tells us that our answer has to have 2 decimal places. Notice that I didn't line up the decimals. In multiplication, that's not necessary. Okay, so let's multiply. Zeros. Okay, 0 times 8 is 0, 0 times 9 is 0. So let's move 1 over by putting a 0 here. 5 times 8 is 40, goes 4. 5 times 9 is 45. Wait, plus 4 is 49. Let's do the second 5. And let me add 2 zeros. It's going to be the same numbers, 4 and it's going to be 2 zeros. And why am I having this? And yeah, okay, here we go, sorry. And then 6, I'm going to add 3 zeros. 1, 2, 3. 6 times 8 is 48, carry the 4. 6 times 9 is 54, plus 4 is 58. And that's going to give us a total of, let me add this, do I have room? 0, 0, 9. And this is what? 1721 goes 2, that's 14. And carry the 1 again, that's 6. So 641,900. My answer has to have 2 decimal places, so I'm going to put the decimal right here. So how much do they pay in taxes for the year? 6,419 and 0 cents. 7. She bought 4 pounds of candy. What was the average cost per pound? So she paid a total of $12.25. And you want to divide this by 4, okay, because we want to know how much each pound was. For 4 pounds, it's 25.24. Let's 12.25. So let's find out how much 1 pound is. Well, there is no decimal here, so you leave it alone. It's a whole number. It's what we like, but there's a decimal inside. Let's bring that up. 4 does not go into 1, but goes into 12 3 times. That's a 0. Bring the 2 down. 4 does not go into 2, so put a 0 on top. Let's bring the 5 down. And 4 goes into 25 6 times, which is 24. Okay. And let's go one more. Okay. Let's bring this 0 down. And 4 goes into 10 2 times. Well, we can stop here. Okay. Or actually, we can continue one more because it's going to be actually a nice ending. 4, bring a 0 down, 4 goes into 25 times. Okay, so our answer is $3 and it's $3.0625. We know that money doesn't go to 4 decimal places. Okay, as far as our daily use, it goes to 2 decimal places. So we got to make a cut. These 2 numbers are eliminated, but we ask ourselves before throwing it out, does that 2 going to influence the 6 to go up or stay the same? So we know that because 2 is 4 less, it's going to make it stay. So every pound of what candy costs $3.06. Okay. 8. Mr. Adams drives to school twice a week for 5 days. Each trip averages 35.8 miles. In 1 week, how many times did he drive? Well, there are 7 days in a week. Okay. 7 days in a week. So in 1 day, let's just do 1 day. In 1 day, he does 2 trips. Okay, he goes one way for 35.8 miles, and then he does the return trip for 35.8 miles. So in 1 day of driving only, 16, carry the 1, it's 11, carry the 1 to 7. Just in 1 day, Mr. Adam drives 71.6 miles. Okay, so that's a 1 day total. Well, he drives 7 days a week, so if 1 day he drives 71.6 miles times 7, we're going to get 2, carry the 4, it's 11, carry the 1, it's 50. Oh, and I forgot, here, there's 1 decimal place. Here, there's none. Our total should be 1 decimal place, and our answer should have 1 decimal place, so it's 501.2, and did I get that right? That's number 8. No, I did not. Whew. Because we have an answer at the bottom, it says 358 miles. What did I do wrong? Each trip averages 35.8. Well, the only thing I can think of is that the question actually means that instead of all this, that in actuality, what he does is every day that both trips add up to 35. So in 1 day, he drives 35.8 miles. That's his 1 day total. Okay, which hopefully, so if 1 day he drives 35.8 miles, to find out how many miles he drives in 7 days, you multiply this by 7, and that's a 6. 5 is a 40. No, what am I doing? Yeah, 5 is a 40. Carries a 4. 12. 12 and 4 is 16. And 1 decimal place, because there's 1 decimal, it's 160.6. And I'm still getting this wrong because it's not matching the answer at the bottom. Okay, so let's think about this. Drive the school bus twice a day for 5 days a week. Oh, I'm sorry, 5 days a week. Okay, all right, okay. Not 7 days, 5 days a week. So here we go. I would have gotten this question completely wrong. And that shows you that I make mistakes all the time. So let's see. So 1 day on his way, one way he goes 35.8. So I'm going to stick to my initial idea that he goes one way 35.8 miles, returns back 35.8 miles, and his total for that day is 61. So 71.6 miles in 1 day. You want to multiply this by 5 because there's 5 days that he drives. So 71.6 he drives in 1 day times 5. Let's see if I get this right. 5 times 6 is 30. Carry the 3. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8, and then 5 times 7 is 35. Okay, this particular factor has 1 decimal place. This one has 0 for a total of 1 decimal, so my answer should have 1 decimal place, making my answer 358. Let's check that. And yes, I have it correct. Okay. 9. A gallon of water weighs 8.3 pounds. How many gallons of water are there in 614.2 pounds? Well, I have a total of 614.2 pounds. Okay. And I want to know how many times 8.3 can go in there. That will give you the number of gallons. Remember, 1 gallon is 8.3 pounds. If you have a total of 614.2 pounds, let's see how many gallons you have. So, division, move 1 to the right, make that a whole number, that's 83. Same thing inside, move 1 over. Remember, whenever you do the divisor, you do the dividend, and it becomes 6142, a nice whole number as well. So 83 goes into 614, I'd say about 6 times, 7 times, I'd say. So let's put a 7 over here. 7 times 3 is 21, goes 2, 56, 58. That seems to work out. 4 minus 1 is 3. 11 minus 8 is 3. And this is going to be a 0 because it borrowed. Bring the 2 down. 83 goes into 332. Ooh, 5 times? No, 6, 4, 5, 4, no, 4. 4 is 20, 32. All right, so 4 times. 4 times 3 is 12. Carry the 1. 4 times 8 is 32, plus 1, 33. Perfect. So, in 614.2, there are 74 gallons of water. Okay? Next one, 10. You were charged $22.92 for 16.5 gallons of gasoline. So you bought 16 gallons of gas. What is the price of gasoline per gallon? Wow, that looks very cheap. So you paid $22.92, and you got 16.5 gallons. If you divide, you're able to find out the price of the gallon per price of gallon. Again, move this one over, makes that 165. Move this 1 over, okay, because you got to move the same amount, and it becomes 229.2. Decimal, move 1 over. 165 does not go into 2, does not go into 22, but goes into 29 one time. Okay, let We subtract. 9 minus 5 is 4. Just need a little borrowing. 12 minus 6 is 6. I forgot to do something before we started, which was move this decimal up because it's going to be part of our answer. Bring the 2 down. 165 goes into 642 about 4 times. Let's see if I'm right. Times 4, 660. So it's got to be 5 times actually. 5 times 5 is 25. Carry the 2. 5 times 6 is 30. Plus 2 is 32. Carry the 3. 5 times 1 is 5. And what am I doing? Because that's not the right answer. Let me erase, backtrack. Now 165 goes 4 times. 4 times 5 is 20. Carry the 2. 4 times 6 is 24. 26. Carry the 2 again. And it won't go 4 times. So it's not 4, but it's 3. 3 goes 3 times 5 is 15. Carry the 1. 3 times 6 is 18. Plus 1, 19. And plus 1 here, 495. Subtract. 12 minus 5 is 7. This was a 13, by the way. Minus 4 is 4. This was a 5 because you borrowed. I'm doing this a little backwards. Sorry. 147. Okay. Let's bring a 0 down. See if that helps with our answer. So our new number is 1,470. And 1,470. Sheesh. 8 times? About 8 times. So let me bring the screen down just a little bit. So 8 times 5 is 40. Goes 4. 8 times 6 is 48. Plus 2 is 52. Carry the 5. 8 times 1 is 8. Plus 5 is 13. Or subtract this, you get 50. And let's bring one more 0 down. You always want to do it at least 3 decimal places. Okay, so, and you bring a 0. And 165 goes into 500 about 3 times. And I'm not even going to subtract, but we can stop here. Money only goes to, so our answer right now is 1.383, etc., etc. But we don't really care about the etc. Because money goes 2 decimal places. And actually, the question says round your answer nearest tenth. Well, actually, they want us to round it to here. So they actually want us to break it. Let me backtrack here. They want us to cut our decimal right here after the tenths. So does the 8 make the 3 go 1 higher? Make it stay the same. It does make it go 1 higher. Final answer, about 1.4. 11. In a 220-yard dash, Fred finished in 36.4 seconds. Dick finished in 33.9 seconds. How much longer did it take Fred? Well, okay, this one is who was faster and by how much, okay? Or how much longer did Fred take? Well, it's simple. I hope everybody realizes it's a subtraction problem. So 36.4 and 33.9. Okay. And we're going to subtract. We're not going to borrow from the 6. We're going to borrow from the 6. This becomes a 5. This becomes 14. That's a 5. 2.5. So it took Fred 2.5 seconds, or 2.5 seconds more. Okay. Well, find the total cost of this food. 4 pounds of steak at $3.89 per pound. 4 dozens at $1.05 per dozen. 2 gallons of milk. Jeez. $1.99 and 3 loaves of bread at $1.79. All right, so let's do this one step at a time. So, 4 pounds of steak. Each pound of steak is $3.89, and it's times 4 because we bought 4 pounds. Next one. 4 dozen of eggs, and each dozen of eggs is $1.05. That's really cheap. $1.05, and we bought 4 dozens. 2 gallons of milk. Okay, so each gallon of milk is $1.99, and we're buying 2. And finally, 3 loaves of bread, and each loaf of bread is $1.79 times 3. Okay, so each of them here. So each of them has 2 decimal places. There's 2 decimal places here, none here. Oops, should have done that. Okay, that's my bell, by the way. So let me go back here. All right, so 389 times 4, and that's 36. Carry the 3. 32, 35. Carry the 3. 12, 15. My answer should have 2 decimal places, making this 15.56. This one's easy enough. Okay, it's going to be 4.20. Okay, this one is going to be easy enough again. Okay, 398. And 27 goes 2, 23 goes 2, 5.37, and there. So the total, I'm still not done because this is just the total value of each item that I'm purchasing. Addition, addition, and addition. So if I were to add all those numbers, okay, and I'm going to line them up, and I'll do that a little bit at the bottom. And you got 15.56, 4.20, 3.98, 5.37, and there's my bell again. All right, all my decimals are lined up. Okay, place values are lined up nicely. Okay, so 8 and 7 is 15, plus 6 is 21. Carry the 2. 2 and 5 is 7, 7, 9, 9 and 9 is 18, 18 is 3 is 21. Bring the decimal down, carry the 2. 7 plus 4 is 11, 11 plus 3 is 14, 14 plus 5 is 19. Carry the 1. Our total is $29.11 for all our purchases. Okay. And finally, last question on this handout. Start a trip when your odometer reads 23,672 miles. You have a full tank of gas, okay? So your car, basically that means that your car has so far been driven for 23,672 miles. That's how many miles your car has driven to this point, okay? And you just filled your tank, right? So that's your starting point. After a few hours, okay, you filled out your tank because obviously you drove, and your odometer reading reads 23,927. So you drove quite a few miles, and the miles that you drove require 16.5 gallons. So let's get this straight. So here we go. So you've drove a few miles, and your odometer says that you have driven 23 miles, 927 so far. But, okay, 1 second. Alright, so let's see. So your new odometer reading is 23,000 miles, 927. Okay, and where do we start? You started at 23,672. So when you started that day, the car, your odometer on your car said that you had driven 23,672 miles. And at the end of the day, it read 23,927 miles, which meant you drove quite a few miles. Let's see how many miles you drove that day. 7 minus 2 is 5. This is a 12. Let's borrow. Okay, let me do this properly. That becomes an 8. That becomes a 12. 12 minus 7 is 5. 8 minus 6 is 2. And this should not be a plus sign. This should be instead a minus sign. Okay. So that day you drove 255 miles. And it took you how many gallons? And it took you 16.5 gallons of gasoline. Okay. So, question says, how many miles did you drive for each gallon of gas that you put in that car? Well, it's going to be a division problem. 255 255 miles divided by 16.5 gallons that you use. Well, let me lower this a little bit more. Okay, need to make a few changes. I'll do this on the side. Move 1 to the right to become a whole number. That becomes 165. And then inside, you're also going to move 1 over. There is no decimal because it's a whole number. So add a decimal and move it 1 over. You need to add a 0. That's your new decimal place. So your new number becomes 2550. 165 goes into 255 one time. And let's subtract this. You need to borrow. You don't need to borrow that much. So let me go back 1. Okay, so let me write this again. 165. Okay, so this becomes a 1. This becomes a 15. That's good enough. 5 minus 5 is 0. 15 minus 6 is 90. Let's bring that 0 down. 165 goes into 900 about, I don't know, 5 times. So, and 5 times 165, according to my calculator, you don't think I'm really actually doing this in my head, right? It's 825. Okay. You subtract, you get 75. And you know what? What did that question say? To the nearest tenth. Well, so let's go one more. We can bring a 0 down, but before we bring that 0 down, we have to add a decimal on the top. Careful. Okay. So 750. That's about maybe 4 times. 165 times 4, 660. Okay. And that is 660. And we're going to get 90 left over. Okay, we're going to bring another 0 down. And that will give us 5. Okay, 825. We can stop here because our answer says round to nearest tens. Well, to round to the nearest tens, it is necessary to actually do our division to the hundreds. Okay, stop in the hundreds. They ask us to stop here as far as our answer is concerned. But in order to round it, we need to go 1 over to see if this guy is going to influence this guy at all. Okay, and in this case it does. Final answer, 15.5. Okay. Not that simple. A lot of work for these questions, but I don't think it were that complicated. Okay, so this is video 1. And yeah, I'm going to stop and I'll make video 2, and I'll use video 2 for the taxes and tips on the other one. Okay.